Hi, I'm David Harrington. Welcome back to another Turkstra Tips and Tricks. Today we're going to be talking about how to use a drill and screws. The first thing you're going to want to think about when screwing two pieces of wood together is the length of your screw. You don't want your screw to be so long that it's going to stick out the bottom, and you don't want to be too short where it's not going to bite in the second piece. Generally, I like to have a screw go 3/4 of the way into the second piece of material, so this screw here would work well. The next thing you're going to want to look at with the screw is the collar. You definitely like to have a screw with a collar on it so that when you screw into the wood, the screw is able to spin freely in the top piece, and that's going to prevent the wood from separating when you screw. And you may have noticed that happening. Sometimes you'll screw in and it will pull the top piece of material away from the bottom. That's going to help it. Another way to help that is to pre-drill. Now, if you were going to want to pre-drill this to prevent the wood from separating, what you want to do is you want to get a drill bit that's very similar in size to the collar of the screw you're using, or slightly bigger, and that's going to allow the screw to slip through the first piece of wood and just tighten into the second one. Another reason you might have for pre-drilling is same as with nailing, is if you don't want to split the wood, especially if you're using hardwood or thin wood, you don't want to split it when you screw through. So all you want to do, like I said with that drill bit, is drill through. And even though the screw doesn't fit through the hole freely, it's going to give it enough wiggle room that it won't crack, split, or cause the top piece of wood to come up. And if you happen to be pre-drilling into a hardwood, plastic, or metal, which this isn't, but if you were, you could always center punch. And then when you start to drill, your drill's not going to wander, it's going to go right in. And whenever you're using a drill, especially a cordless drill, to drill, not screw, make sure you have it on the drill setting. And sometimes too, if you're drilling two pieces of wood or material together, the head of the screw can actually cause the wood to crack. Or if you just want a nice clean finish, you can use a chamfering tool like this and make the top a nice chamfered hole so that the head of the screw will sit right in there perfectly flush. And now with that chamfer, as the screw gets to the wood, it will sit in perfectly flush. And you might have noticed there, my drill bit skipped a little on the head of the screw. If you find that happening, press a little harder. Also, what's really important is getting yourself a good bit. You know, when I used to work on the road with a crew, you found a good bit, you held onto it with your life, because there's nothing worse than going around working on projects with a bit that's stripping all the screws of your heads. Also, if you're screwing a screw in and you start to strip the head, take it out immediately, because what happens if you continue to try to screw it in, it's going to strip more and you'll end up with it not all the way in, and then you can't get it all the way in, and now you can't get it out, and you've got a real problem on your hands. If you're working on a project with a lot of screws, it's going to be nice to have a cordless drill. It's quick to take the bits in and out. You just reverse the drill, hold the chuck. That's going to take a bit out. Put the drill in forward, hold the chuck, and that's going to tighten your next bit or drill bit on. And speaking of drill bits, commonly you're going to see bits like this, which are actually a metal bit. Actual woodworking bits are called brad bits, and they have a finer point that it tapers in and goes straight to start a screw. But for kind of everyday DIY, you're just going to be fine with a regular set of drill bits, which are metal drill bits. They're going to drill through anything you have for pretty much as long as you need it to. And one last little tip that I see a lot of people not using is take advantage of the different clutch stiffnesses on your cordless drill. If you're screwing into something and you don't want the head to go in too deep or damage or split, set your clutch to a lower number, and then as you screw the screw in, the clutch will disengage and cause the screw not to go in too deeply. So that noise there is the clutch skipping, and then the screw head stops nice and flush and doesn't go too far. Now, using a drill and screwing projects together, screwing wood together, that's one of those things where everybody's going to have their own techniques. They're going to have different drills, different methods that they use. This is what I like to do. These are my kind of tips and tricks. And if you use these, it's definitely going to help you building your projects. And if you have any questions at all about projects you're working on, definitely consider signing up for a free project coach at build-it-better.ca through Turkstra. With this, you'll get discounted delivery, a lot of great monthly deals, and access to all the industry pros with their tips and tricks. And remember guys, the more you build, the better you're gonna get.